We got another trade from our Dynasty follower leagues to show you today. Been trying to get you guys some great content from some really great crews over there that support us on Patreon in our follower leagues.
Shout out to you guys, huh?
Yeah, shout out to you guys. And we're talking about the India League today. We go by the NATO alphabet for our leagues. So shout out to everybody in the India League. We're looking at a trade from Pedro and Billy Spriggs. Billy is
Billy on the
one of the few people who I think is in as many leagues as us.
Nation. We call him a nations builder. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's building the community.
He's the foundation.
He's the foundation. Shout out to Pedro. Shout out to Billy. We're looking at this trade here, and obviously we're going to talk about it without context beforehand, and then we're going to look at the teams and bring it into context as well. So, Badaki, straight off the bat, which side are you leaning without any context?
Without any context, I would say I would lean Najee here. The Najee Harris, Tyler Boyd, only because I'm assuming this is more of a futuristic build. The opportunity, I still believe in Najee. I love Najee. Davante Adams, he says he wants to play for a couple more years. Is the production still up there? What's that look like? But also, I'm not a huge fan of Nyheim Hines. I have a feeling that the only reason you draft or you trade for Nyheim Hines is probably because Pedro has Jonathan Taylor. And then Damian Harris, who I do like as a running back, but I think he's on his contract here. Does he stay with the Patriots or does he go to another team? Where's that team at? Does he go to a worse offense?
Right.
You know, do they move on from him? I think there's just too many question marks that really I see Najee and Nyheim Hines as a throw-in, and then the real trade is just Davante Adams, Najee Harris. If I really had to put this side by side, Damian Harris is there, but it doesn't move the needle for me as much. You know, like it's not a guy that really says, you know what, this is a smash accept for me. So I'm definitely going Najee Harris. And Tyler Boyd, once again, not exciting, but if T goes down, if Chase goes down, Tyler Boyd has always been there to fill in the role, which has been good, but not somebody that is going to be bringing you massive fantasy production week in, week out.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I do think that there is even value on both sides. I wouldn't look at Billy's side with Najee and just think, oh, I feel like that's like the better value. I truly view both sides. And when you talk about players that feel irrelevant in Dynasty, that's Tyler Boyd to me. Like, they're not building around Tyler Boyd. I know he's on the Bengals, but it's going to take an injury for him to be someone you ever want to use. Whereas I feel like Harris can be someone that you can start as your RB2.
For sure.
And he's not in a place where he's super old. I mean, he could re-sign with New England. It would be pretty cheap to re-sign him. Or he can be kind of do what James Conner did, you know, and get a contract somewhere else for on the cheap. So when I look at, you know, pieces on the trade outside of the main guys, I feel like Damian Harris and Hines, Hines not so much, but Damian Harris feels like a solid starter. And then Davante Adams or Najee. And this is where I feel like context really comes in. So I don't know if I can really pick a side right now without, like, if we were doing this as a part of our trade videos, I probably would say Najee, just because I'm getting the younger asset. And if my brain always goes towards startup values, and Najee is typically going around, you know, the 110 to the 203, where Adams is around the fourth round. Some earlier in the third round, actually. It depends on your strategy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so typically I think I would go Najee without looking at context. But I think it is important, this one specifically, to look at context.
Context, exactly.
So why don't we do that? We got Pedro on the left, Billy on the right. This is week 8. They're going to face off this week, in this season. Jeez, help me. And it looks like both have some Chiefs players who are going to be on bye. So Patty Mahomes is going to be on bye for Billy, but so will Kelsey for Pedro, but so will Juju for Billy. So that will be an interesting week.
Billy, yeah, very interesting. I mean,
why don't we look at Pedro's side first? Go ahead.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, Jonathan Taylor. That's what I said. I feel like the only reason why you try and trade for Nyheim Hines if you have JT just in case. Devin Singletary, Davante Adams, Gabriel Davis, Travis Kelsey, Kareem Hunt, Hunter Renfrow, Ryan Tannehill, Carson Wentz on the bench.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting to have Hunter Renfrow and Davante Adams in your starting lineup. Might limit your upside a little bit.
It definitely limits the upside. I mean, he does have Hunter Henry on the bench.
At the bench, yeah.
And he doesn't have another wide receiver that I would say I'm comfortable starting. Corey Davis, Kendrick Bourne, DJ Chark. I mean, these aren't guys that I would rather start over a Hunter Renfrow, in my opinion.
Right.
But the running back room does kind of get better now because he does acquire Damian
Well,
Harris.
he lost Najee Harris.
Right. Well,
So it doesn't
sorry.
get better.
So that you're right, but at least Damian Harris is definitely, I would say, an upgrade to Devin Singletary, depending on how people feel.
Right.
Cause
Feels like they're both guys who could be an RB2 potentially.
yeah, exactly. If you look at Billy's team though, the running back room definitely does get better. He does get Najee, so Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Adam Thielen, Juju, T.J. Hawkinson, Brandon Ayuk, Dalvin Cooks too, Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Okay. He has D Hop as well with Tyler Boyd, Mike Gesicki, and Irv Smith. So he can definitely move this around a little bit by putting Dalvin Cook. I mean, the fact that he has 3 running backs now, he does lose Devontae Adams, but the wide receivers aren't terrible.
Yeah.
Thielen,
The depth outside, like you kind of traded depth. You kind of traded depth in for a stud, which, I do like doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make your wide receiver room relatively weak in Dynasty. I mean, these are all guys that can hit when you look at Thielen,
Right.
Juju. I like Ayuk the most out of these guys long term.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Thielen isn't necessarily someone that we're all dying to build around in Dynasty.
Right.
So it does make the wide receiver room much weaker with Parker, Hopkins. I mean, in a couple of years, this will look like a retirement home, but you did obviously get much younger, and you're kind of betting on the running backs to carry you with your quarterbacks because the quarterback play is going to be really good as well.
I think he's
But
also maybe.
We also moved Devontae, and we had Derek Carr, so we had the stack.
We did have the stack, and that's what I was saying. I think maybe maybe he's gonna move off of Derek Carr, maybe tier down potentially, and then get another wide receiver somehow. So maybe he can get, I don't know, maybe he can get another chance of.
To be fair, I mean, this is a win now team.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to do that, but I don't know what else to do here. I mean, Devontae Parker. I'm assuming he's banking on Devontae Parker to come up and do something here in New England.
I like Parker.
Same thing with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he doesn't have it for the first 6 games, but when DeAndre Hopkins does come back,
there's enough there to figure it out for sure. I mean, you're
100%.
betting on, there's enough wide receivers to kind of figure it out. What would be super frustrating is if, like, you're in the playoffs and you have all these guys that you're like, oh, who do I start this week? And then instead of these solid guys that you just don't think about.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say there's a couple things that were confusing for me about these teams when I look at the context, and maybe Pedro and Billy can comment and give us more context. So just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
For Pedro's side, you're getting Adams and you also have Renfrow in your starting lineup. I just feel like that really limits your weekly upside. So I'm just curious, if maybe you don't intend to keep Renfrow, or maybe you're just like, I think that the Raiders are going to be fantastic, and I'm willing to bet on whoever goes off that week. That's fair enough. For Billy, you lose the Devontae Adams and Derek Carr stack, which is going to be intact for probably the next 3 to 4 years, right?
Yeah.
With the contracts that they've both got. So for you to be a win-now team, I feel like I'm comfortable with Henry and Cook. Do you know what I mean? Like, if Henry and Cook are my RB1, RB2, I might actually prefer to have Adams with Derek Carr in my wide receiver room. I don't know about you, but
I definitely get it. Having Henry, Cooks with Damian Harris on the bench before this trade would have still felt okay, because then you look at the team. Once again, Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen with Juju with the stack, that definitely feels a lot better. So maybe this trade, now looking at it with the context, doesn't necessarily feel right for Billy.
Right.
Because
we
I
could
feel
be
like
overanalyzing as well.
Yeah, I mean, the way we look, it looks like it's like he has more security. He had more security, where now he kind of doesn't have the security in the wide receiver room. It's kind of tough to say, but I feel like it's still an even trade with the teams, because both did the things that they shouldn't have done potentially for their teams.
Well, from our perspective. Maybe it doesn't make sense with upsides and stacks, and we're not even huge on stacks, but yeah, I mean, Pedro, Billy, there might be context that we're missing that we're not including, so I'm sorry, and comment down below if there's things that we might have missed, but yeah, I think I think I probably, if I'm Billy, I definitely would have stayed with what I had.
Right.
If I'm Pedro, I still like the trade. The only thing I'm not in love with is just what are we doing with Renfro and Adams? Like, because we don't really have, I guess we can put Damian in our flex, but at the same time, you don't feel incredibly confident in Damian on a weekly basis. You feel like he can offer upside. But
Right.
at the same time, we could be overthinking it. So
Could.
why don't you guys let us know any context that we missed? Post trade, I think it makes a little more sense for Pedro than it does Billy, but at the same time, I think it's even value still when I look at the context.
Yeah, definitely even value. You know what? I'm still gonna go with Billy here. I think I like his overall team better construction. Construction better. Like who he has still on the team, and a little bit. I like the bench a little bit more with D Hop and Parker there.
We're not comparing their teams.
Yeah.
We're comparing the trade.
The trade, yeah. I think that's what I'm saying. I still go with Najee, and then with Najee with the context. Without context, it was Najee for me. With context, I think I'm still going Billy with the team construction and how his bench looks like.
All right, guys. Well, why don't you comment down below? Let us know what you're thinking for these two teams. Who won this trade?
Yo, what's good? Thanks
up?
for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
Watch
now,
it.
You can also subscribe
Right now.
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLandFam.